Hey Evan, how are you?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, nice to meet you. I'm Kyle. But yeah, so I just kind of wanted to jump right in. So congratulations on your new book, World Wild Vet.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to go back to the beginning. Where did this, immense love of animals start for you?
It's always been there, man. As long as I can remember, I grew up in Kansas, and there's neat wildlife there. We had a creek in my backyard growing up, and my earliest memories are me like going in the backyard, looking in the creek. My mom has always been into gardening and landscaping, so I'd flip rocks around the yard looking for insects and looking for snakes and turtles and anything I could find out there in the wild. And now I do. I mean, it's like one of my favorite things to do still. I just do it all over the world. And then I also like to give back to the wildlife I've always appreciated so much. So as a veterinarian, I get to help them as well.
Yeah,
But it's just part of who I am. I don't know. I can't. It's always been there.
for sure. And yeah, I mean, you care for so many different species of animals, and I mean, you really run the gamut. And how do you know, to treat and care for all of them? Like they're because they're all so different, right? There can't be like one size like fits all like healing protocol or whatever.
Right. No, it's a good question. I mean, a lot of wildlife and exotic animals we don't know a lot about in the medical field, in the veterinary field. So we extrapolate from what we do know. And so there are times I find myself working with the new species I maybe never worked with, and there's not much information about. And so I just go from what I know about the next closest species or read up on what we know in the field about the next closest species. And then, we do know a lot about a lot of different species. And so to work with so many different species, there's one of my species. I don't know if you heard my cat, Willie. Hi, Willie. Yes. I did a lot of extra coursework. Every exotic elective I could in vet school, I would take it. I would do exotic and zoo medicine rotations. I did externships, at zoos and all exotic private practices. And I've been working with wildlife and exotic animals since before vet school. I'd volunteer at wildlife rescues in my travels around the world, and
Wow.
so just getting hands-on experience with them through my traveling, and even at the practice where I work, we see a lot of exotics and wildlife. So it's a lot of it's experience based too, to answer your question. But
Mhm.
yeah, we only know so much about so many animals.
How do you kind of break up like your travel kind of adventures? Well, now like it's probably not as much with COVID and everything, but and then your practice that you have.
These days, I'm part time at the practice in LA, in Thousand Oaks. Conejo Valley Veterinary Hospital is the name of the practice. I've been there since I graduated.
Wow.
Um, and this year obviously is unique. I'm not traveling as much. I'll be leaving next week for Jamaica, though I get to do some zoo work at the Kingston Zoo and then some conservation work in the field with one of my best friends. I mentioned him in the book a couple times. Joey Brown, I did some crocodile research with him and then some iguana research, the Fijian iguana. Anyways, yeah, so up until this year, I'd be out of the country like 3 to 4 months of the year cumulatively, and then be part time back at the practice. And then I've got other projects and I work on from home or from domestically in the U.S. and L.A. or New York or whatever, and those keep me busy too. So it's kind of part time at the practice. For the first 5 years though, after I graduated, I was very full time there, and then my time has just shifted to doing other things as
Right.
well. But I would still try to get out at least once a year to travel and work with wildlife and stuff like that.
I was watching some of your travels and your adventures on your show, Evan Goes Wild,
Oh, right on.
and and it's really cool. I mean, swimming with humpback whales in Tahiti, and then you're down in Mexico and wrangling 300-pound crocodiles. You know,
Yeah.
like where's your fear?
I'm really lucky. I don't have any like irrational fears when it comes to animals. I have rational, concerns and respect for dangerous animals, of course. And so I try to interact with them safely, or at least these days. I mean, there's been times in the past where I've pushed the limits and got myself into trouble just being too enthusiastic to work with animals as in my younger years. But I have a healthy respect for dangerous animals, but I don't have this, an irrational fear of snakes or spiders or sharks or any of these things. I mean, I appreciate them all. I think they're all actually fascinating animals, and my heart kind of goes out to the underdogs. Some of these animals that so many people don't like. because they find them gross or something like rats, or they're afraid of them like the other animals I said. I mean, it's too bad because they all do play an important role in their niche. Where they're native to, whether it's the oceans or the wild all around the world or what have you.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it too, about, fear, and like, it holds so many people back from so much stuff in life. Um, and people, in relation to animals, like they don't want to go in the ocean because they're afraid of sharks, or,
Right.
like, even like, me, I was like attacked by a couple dogs when I was like a kid. And,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
and even, now, like I just have like my guard up, a bit when I see just a strange dog or anything. So what kind of advice, I guess, would you give to someone who doesn't have like your veterinary knowledge about what to do, or about that kind of fear that someone might have for an animal?
I mean, when I encounter people like that, and I've had many friends like that over the years, where they're afraid of snakes or something, and so I'll try to introduce them to a friendly snake, and just show them, and then often I've had a couple of snake pets. I've had a snake for years, and just trying to get them exposed to it and show them firsthand through the handling and the eyes and the education of an expert, which not everybody can do, but that's something I've done personally with people to show them, hey, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's actually really fascinating. I've done this with wild snakes. I've caught them, just randomly, and been around friends, been like, hey, actually check this out. I know you're afraid of snakes, but just check this out.
Yeah.
And it was like a mellow wild snake. But, I mean, the thing you have to realize is, and probably the first thing I should have said, is these animals are more afraid of you than you are them, especially like snakes and spiders and the ones that really aren't going to hurt you. There's venomous snakes out there, but even the venomous snakes, I mean, they want to keep a distance. Like 95+% of snake bites are males under the age of 25 and under the influence. And they're tampering with the snakes. They're messing with them. They're provoking it.
Right.
Like if you find a snake in the wild, I mean, just keep your distance. It doesn't want to mess with you any more than you don't want to mess with it. So you really have nothing to be afraid of. When it comes to other things like potentially dangerous animals like sharks, I mean, the odds of you getting bit by a shark are so slim. I mean, more people die a year from being bit by humans in just the city of New York City, every year than people that die from shark bites around the world. There's an average of like 160 or so, 180 shark bites a year. Many of them are provoked. They're people interacting intentionally with sharks. And there's 5 to 6 deaths. So it happens. It's real. And way more venomous snakes kill people in other parts of the world than the US. And some of the people that will be, listening or seeing this interview. But just statistically, it's not really likely, and a lot of these animals, they don't want to mess with you.
Right. Your new book, World Wild Vet, like I said, congratulations. It's a really nice mix of like travel diary, memoir, conservation, like, awareness kind of call,
Yeah.
which I think is great. And it's kind of not your traditional memoir. So what made you want to write it, at this particular time?
This time, I mean, I've been working on this book for like 2.5 years, so it finally just got out. So it's been a little bit of a project, but it's something I wanted to write a book at some point in my career, and I thought initially it would be later in my career because I've been a vet for 7 years, and I've got a lot more work I want to do over the years, obviously. But I've been very, very fortunate, and I've worked with so many different species around the world. I have done a lot of traveling to pretty remote, crazy, cool places. And I've learned a lot over the years and along the way. And there's so many messages in conservation in different parts of the world, whether it's Australia or Southeast Asia or Africa or Central, in the Western Hemisphere, And so I just feel like I had enough to put into a book and along the lines of what I did want to write eventually. And we're in the middle of a 6th extinction, and I'm not saying that my book is going to change the world in that way, but I mean, I do want to get people aware of it. I do want people to understand what's going on with the rhino and why not to ride, or elephants in Southeast Asia or get paintings from them, or, just to be a smart tourist at least and realize that, hey, we're losing a lot of these species. This is really serious stuff. And I just want to, share with people what this looks like firsthand, getting to work with other conservationists and veterinarians, and in these, habitats of these animals where they're native to around the world. And I feel like I've been, so lucky to experience a lot of that so far, enough to put into a book.
About on the conservation end, what are you like? Because there's so much to be careful of and to watch out for. But is there anything that you're particularly optimistic or hopeful about on that kind of end?
I mean, there are people out there doing really incredible things to help conserve our wildlife, and so I do want to celebrate them as well, and they do give me hope. The odds are stacked against almost all of them anywhere in the world, whether it's my friends working to help protect rhino, or my friends that are helping to protect the chimpanzee and primates in other parts of Africa, or wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
The bad guys have a lot more money and they're motivated, and legally in these countries it's tough, so it can look pretty grim at times. But Jane Goodall said some version of it, something along the lines of like, you can only love what you know, and you can only protect what you love. What that's basically saying is like, we won't protect what we don't know, because we just need to know about it.
Right.
And we can't love it if we don't know what it is. What I'm getting at is that, raising awareness is so important, and just educating people. And that's one of my strengths. That's something I can do. That's the first step towards conserving our wildlife, or doing anything, is just making people aware of what the problem is. And that's where I feel like I can make a difference. And I've gotten to work with some really cool people doing just that, and making real differences really in the trenches around the world. So
Yeah.
I try to stay hopeful.
No, absolutely. And then, you were just saying that you've been able to go so many places, you've traveled, you've learned a lot. Is there like kind of one lesson that really like stands out to you as some of like your greatest kind of career learnings, I guess?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, one that's really struck a chord with me is just to be an intelligent, I like to say an intelligent voter. And when I say voter, I'm not just talking about like political voting, which we're in the middle, or kind of, just did a bunch of that, obviously. But what I mean is like, as a consumer of products, or as a consumer on social media. A lot of my, what I do has to do with social media. And it's been great. It's a great tool to educate people. But unfortunately, in my eyes, from what I see, I worry that social media, for example, has a bigger net negative impact than a positive one on our conservation. And there's so many people doing such good things, and I'm not trying to take anything away from them. And I think the work I do is in line with that, and that's what I strive for. But there's so much bad stuff. And so an example of that is like when we see a chimpanzee in a bath, taking a bath, or wearing clothes, or playing with a dog or a cat, or playing on a phone, or doing things that look like human-like, or look like a pet. This kind of thing fuels poaching.
Right.
Okay, and so people like you or I, who are, we have a heart for animals. We don't want anything bad to happen to wild chimps. If we see that kind of thing and don't realize the implications of it, and we share a post, or we like it, or comment on it, or do anything like that, you're actually fueling the poaching of these wild animals. And so it's a bummer, but it's the reality of the situation, that even people that love animals can be destructive towards the conservation of these wildlife species. And so that's something that I think has hit me hard, and I've learned a lot. And I say voter, consuming too. So if you're, when you buy things, you can be responsible and do things that are more conservation minded. When you're on social media, just try to think about what you're engaging with. Just make sure it's not. If you don't know, then maybe just be on the safe side. But if you see something that looks a little bit questionable, maybe think twice about it. Does this seem like it's a good thing to be doing with a chimp or another primate, or petting a tiger in a Vegas hotel, or whatever it is? Just think twice, before you do that stuff. Because when you do engage and do that, you empower the profiles that are sharing that, and they get more outreach, and it fuels more poaching, or captive breeding of tigers or big cats, or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So your vote makes a difference, I guess, is to the long answer of your question of like one thing. That's been a big thing for me.
No, that's huge, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't consciously think about, or they're, people love animals and they, their intentions are, oh, it's cute, I want to like it or whatever. But I think that's a great takeaway. It's a great lesson for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I don't shame those people. They don't know any better. They're not bad people. They like animals. Like, that's great. I'm happy for that. But they just sometimes don't realize what that entails.
Yeah, and then my last question for you is just, like, as someone who's just an animal expert, you're around animals all the time. Like, what's your spirit animal?
Oh, my spirit animal. That's a great one. So my love of animals, I think it was first, I don't think I know, it was really fueled initially by reptiles. And I don't know if that's because they're misunderstood or they're just so different and unique than mammals. Yeah, they're so different compared to mammals. And I think that's a reason people are uncomfortable around them, because they have scales, or snakes don't have legs, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I don't know. They really hold a place in my heart. Like, I love snakes and venomous snakes, and I love crocodiles. I'm so fascinated by them. I mean, they're modern day dinosaurs. And so I do have some kind of a special, passion for them. I mean, listen, I love working with rhino and chimps and elephants and big cats and primates and all the other animals too, and birds and everything. But it really started with reptiles, I would say.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, I won't take up too much of your time. Congratulations again on the book. It's a big accomplishment, and I'm sure there'll be lots more to come. But yeah, it was great to sit down and talk to you. And yeah, good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time, Kyle. I appreciate it. I love your questions. They were great.
Oh, thanks. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, you take care.